4 games down, 3 games to go on the Penguins' 7-game road trip. They have won 2 and now lost 2. But how did they lose their second game? Let's see how things went down between the Ducks and the Penguins on this episode of Penguins Postgame. Penguins and the Ducks from the Honda Center right now on Penguins Postgame. Let's get this show started. Here we go.
You're locked in to Penguins Hockey on the Sports for Beginners podcast. Sidney Crosby and the Penguins play here on the Sports for Beginners podcast. Hey, shoot, he scores! The bingo game is ready to roll. Welcome to Penguins Postgame. PPG for PGH. And you'd have to be here to believe it. Here is your host, Scott McGregor.
Well, that does it for the Night Owl Club until Monday. But the Penguins continue their 7-game road trip, and they pick up a W on a game that we last recapped, where the Ducks finished with the final score of 5-1. The same final score the Penguins beat the King back on Monday night, just 2 nights ago. I should say 3 nights ago, considering we are recording this Thursday night recap here on a Friday, January 24th, 2025. The deadline to apply for a spot in Pittsburgh's S&T Bank collaboration that will have you not left on the bench saying Elvis has just left the building is tomorrow, January 25th, 2025. So don't be left saying Elvis has just left the building. Log on to PittsburghPenguins.com for more information on how to join this promotion by S&T Bank, a proud supporting sponsor of the Pittsburgh Penguins. S&T Bank, my life, my bank, S&T Bank. I am your host, Scott McGregor. Welcome into Penguins Postgame. Penguins fall to the Ducks 5-1, but have beaten the Buffalo Sabres 5-2. They lost to the Washington Capitals 4-1. They have also beaten the King in a game that we didn't think was going to happen, but it did happen. And you know what? I'm grateful that it did. 5-1, the Penguins beat the King on an emotional night in LA. We want to thank all the first responders for making that possible. And hopefully everyone is doing well in those wildfires. We really hope that everyone is doing well. And as we speak, we hope that the wildfires are getting under control. And thank all the first responders for jumping into the danger and putting their life on the line to save as many lives as possible. All right. With that all being said, let's talk about Thursday's matchup, which is the matchup we're talking about on this episode. Now, the last time the Penguins played the Ducks, we were at Halloween and the end of the first month of the season. It was a close one. Not too much goals being scored in this one. Back on October 31st, 2024, on Halloween. But the The Penguins come out on top in overtime, 2-1. A couple of game notes here to get into the, of course, coaches and goaltending matchup in just a moment. A couple of notes here for this game. Out for this game, Blake Lizotte was out with an illness. We also did not see Ryan Graves and Ryan Shea. Ross Johnston, Nikita N, and Olin Zellweger out as scratch for the Ducks in this one. So those are the scratches for the Ducks and the Penguins. But it should be noted that Blake Lizotte was out due to illness, not injury, due to illness. So we hope Blake is doing well. And Blake, we hope that you are getting better after coming down with an illness as to why you weren't going to be able to play in this one. All right, we'll break down the game in a little bit, but let's get to what we always like to get to right off the jump. This time our venue was Honda Center in Anaheim. And once again, the head coaches for the Pittsburgh Penguins, it's Mike Sullivan. For the Anaheim Ducks, it's Greg Connery. It's Greg Connery. Greg Connery and Mike Sullivan, head coaches of this game. And that'll bring us over to our matchup in goal. This time, it's Alex Nedeljkovic versus John Gibson. Lucas Dostal getting the backup job for the Penguins. Rookie goaltender Joel Blomqvist getting the backup job here. Tristan Jarry has been sent back to Wilkes-Barre Scranton because after he went unclaimed on waivers, so he has been sent back to Wilkes-Barre Scranton. That's why Joel Blomqvist is back up in the Penguins organization. And just to reiterate our matchup between the pipe, Alex Nedeljkovic versus John Gibson at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. And we understand that California State has had a couple of wildfires in the area. So we hope that everyone is doing well and thank the first responders for making this game happen. All right. It is time. It is just about time for us to take our first break of the program. Before we do, why don't we take a look at, now you know what? We're going to take the first break. We're going to take a look around the NHL in a little bit later in the program before a 30-second timeout takes us to what's next up for the Ducks and the Penguins. And of course, before the look around the NHL, we'll do the shake of the game and the game puck of the game. But coming up next, before we can get to that and the stats, as well as the play of the game and the 3 stars of the game, we got to break down the hockey game. So we'll do all that right after a quick word from our friends over at Broadcast Map and on the ice and behind the benches. You are listening to Penguins postgame, and our recap from Honda Center is underway, but the period-by-period scoring and penalties is coming up next in our summary. Our period-by-period summary is coming up next when we return to Penguins postgame. Stick with us.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, And from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Looking for a good hockey podcast that covers your favorite hockey teams and mine? Check out On the Ice and Behind the Benches, where we chat about our favorite hockey teams from puck drop to the last play of the action. To learn more, follow the On the Ice and Behind the Benches Facebook page. Search On the Ice and Behind the Benches.
Welcome back to Penguins postgame here, Penguins and the Ducks. I am Scott McGregor. As I mentioned off the top of the show, that'll do it for Night Owl contest for the Penguins. Until Monday, they're back at it on Monday against the Sharks. Night Owl Club game time is at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. But we'll talk about that more in a bit. It is time for us to break down last night's contest and the last Night Owl game for a little bit before Saturday's afternoon game against Seattle. Now, just a quick reminder in case you missed it. Last time the Ducks and the Penguins played, we were on Halloween, and the Penguins came out on top in overtime, 2-1. Down at PPG Paints Arena, the home of the Pittsburgh Penguins, as the Penguins ended the October month with some spooky hockey being played against the Anaheim Ducks. It was quite a game, but low scoring. Speaking of low scoring for the Penguins in this one, but the Ducks score 3 goals in the third period, and they scored 2 in the first period. Let's talk about it right now. We're going to bring these down in our scoring. We're going to start with scoring, and then we'll go to penalties. That should take us to a break. And then, of course, when we get to the game stats, we will get into the 3 stars of the game and our play of the game as well. So the game stats, 3 stars of the game, and the play of the game coming up within the next segment of the show. So be sure you stick with us. But before we even end this segment of the show, we got to break down the game. So here we go. We're going to start in the scoring and then make our way to penalties. Because in the first period, there were no penalties in this one. So we'll make our way to the second period penalties and third period penalties in a little bit. But before we do, let's get you into the game scoring. And we begin in the first period with Mason McTavish picking up his first goal of the night, 8th of the season. He picked up goal number 8 and 9 on the season in this one, scoring twice. His first goal was his 8th of the season, coming in at 9 minutes and 28 seconds to give Anaheim a 1-goal lead and the early lead in the game. Robbie Farabee picking up his 5th assist, and Jacob Trouba, a former Ranger, picking up his 10th assist of the season. Ducks on top 1-0. But they wouldn't stop there. Alex Killorn, another man who scored twice in this one, a former Tampa Bay Lightning. Alex Killorn picking up his 9th goal of the season. He picks up number 9 and number 10 on the year in this game. As I said, he scored twice, and so did Mason. With that being said, Killorn picking up his ninth goal, of the season. Drew Helleson, Drew Helleson picking up his 4th assist of the season. Trevor Zegras picking up his 7th assist of the season. And that goal comes late in the period at 19 minutes and 1 second. Basically, last minute of play in the period. So we were into the final 60 seconds of the first period. And Anaheim moves on in the first period. They move on into the second period, the middle frame, with a 2-goal lead. It's 2-0 Anaheim over Pittsburgh. Shots on goal during the game stats coming up by period. So that will continue us on into our second period and third period scoring. Only 1 goal scored in the second period. That was on the power play. PPG for PGH for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And it looked like this was going to go to Sidney Crosby, but it went to Michael Bunting. Michael Bunting, his 14th goal of the season. Ninth NHL Pittsburgh power play goal of the season. His 9th leading power play goal for the Penguins as he leads the Penguins in power play goals with 9 for the team. So he's a team leader in power play goals. 9 on the year for him. That was number 14 on the season for the Penguins for Michael Bunting. For Brian Rust, that was assist number 19 of the season. Now, we do understand Brian Rust left in the second period and did not return to the game in the third period, so we hope Rust is okay. He did take a hit, so we understand because of this hit that he took, he was not going to return to the game. And that means, unfortunately, no half off Rusty Shakes after this game, despite the outcome, because Brian Rust was not on to score a goal in this one. Ricard Raquel also coming up on an assist with Rust and Bunting's 14th goal of the season. Rust his 19th assist of the season. That was the only assist he would get. Ricard Raquel picking up his 18th assist of the season. 5 minutes and 32 seconds in. Penguins have scored on the power play and have gotten on the board thanks to Michael Bunting's ninth team leading power play goal. And of course, his 14th goal of the season. With that being said, we go to the third period of play. It's 2-1 Ducks after 40 minutes of play. In the third period, Ducks score 3 goals, not only to get the 2-goal lead back, but also increase it to a 3-goal lead and later 4-goal lead. Mason McDavid strikes again. His ninth goal, of the season, second of the night. Troy Terry picking up an assist, his 21st of the season. The primary assist went to Brian Dumoulin. 11th of the season for Brian Dumoulin. That's the former Penguin Brian Dumoulin, by the way. So Dumoulin picking up an assist for the Ducks. 2 minutes and 6 seconds into the third, the Ducks have gone out in front 3-2. 3-1, I should say, because Penguins didn't score another goal. It's 3-1. Frankfurt Toronto makes it 4-1 Ducks as he scores his 13th goal of the season. Ryan Strome picking up assist number 20 on the year. Troy Terry, he picks up his second assist of the evening on Frankfurt Toronto's 13th goal of the season. That's number 22 for Troy Terry. 6 minutes and 52 seconds in. It's 4-1 Ducks on the Penguins. The Ducks trail the Penguins lead, not trail, they lead the Penguins 4-1. Penguins trail 4-1. And so Mike Sullivan decides to pull Alex Nedeljkovic. I mean, I would expect you to pull Nedeljkovic late in the game, but I hope that we could have at least gotten a bit closer after giving up the third goal of the game and then the fourth goal of the game. Well, actually, the third and fourth goal of the game for Anaheim out of the many goals that were scored in this one, and there were 5 goals scored in this one. Goals 1 and 2 in the first period went to Anaheim. Goal number 3 was number 1 for the Penguins. 4, 5, and 6, I should say. Those were 3, 4, and 5 for the Ducks. Anywho, it's 4-1 on the Frankfurt Toronto goal. His 13th of the season, Ryan Strome picking up his 20th assist of the season. Troy Terry picking up number 22 on the season. And his second assist of the night. Later in the third, at the 18-minute mark of the period. So we're about just 2 minutes away from the end of the game. It's Alex Killorn striking again. Empty net goal by Alex Killorn. 10th goal of the season, which is an empty net goal. Jacob Trouba picking up his second assist of the evening. His 11th of the season. Isaac Lindstrom picking up his 4th of the season. 4th assist of the season and only assist of the night. So Troy Terry and Jacob Trouba picking up double the assist on the evening. And that leads to a 5-0 win. 5-1 win. Sorry, 5-1 win is what I meant to say. Not 5-0. 5-1 win for John Gibson and the Anaheim Ducks. They evened the season series, and to Paul Steigerwald's point, as the post-game show began on the Penguins Radio Network, the 3-game winning streak inside Honda Center came to an abrupt halt as it came to an end, with the Ducks beating the Penguins 5-1. All right, so with that being said, let's quickly go to the penalties before we take this break, as we are now about 22 minutes in to the show. And our penalties, none in the first period. Here we go in the second period. We have the penalty taken by number 2, Jackson Lecombe. 2 minutes for interference. The Penguins score on that power play opportunity. 4 minutes and 28 seconds in. So about a minute and 32 seconds later, that's when the Penguins score on the power play to get on the board. And that's when Michael Bunting scores. Brian Dumoulin later would receive a 2-minute minor for hooking. 18 minutes and 39 seconds in. In the third period, a couple of penalties called here, but the Penguins do survive on the penalty kill. Penguins here, Oliver Joseph went to the box for high sticking. And by the way, this was kind of the period where the officials kind of lost things and we were trying to figure out who was on the ice and who was off the ice. Because for a couple of moments, and I give credit to Joe Brand and Colby Armstrong, the Arm Dog, who were on the call on the radio network for the Penguins. We were trying to figure out who was in net. Sorry, not net. Who was headed to the box and who was on the ice. We're trying to figure that out. It would stand, though, that Pierre-Olivier Joseph would be the guilty party. 3 minutes and 34 seconds in. So the Ducks go to the power play for the first time tonight on Thursday night. This is new. John Gibson, he is receiving a 2-minute minor for an illegal play by goalie, which is a delay of game penalty, a delaying game penalty. So John Gibson will have Mason McTavish take his penalty, serve his penalty, I should say, for illegal play by the goalie. He played it outside the trapezoid, and that was illegally. So you can't do that. So John Gibson sees Mason McTavish, who's scored already twice, or who's scored in this game. He will spend some time in the box a little later. And he had already scored twice in this game, scoring the opening goal in the third period of this game. All right. So from the goaltending illegal penalty to a couple of penalties coming up at 17 minutes and 55 seconds. Christopher Letang and Frank Petrano each receive 2 minutes for roughing, but Letang will actually receive 4 minutes for roughing as he gets another penalty for roughing. Frank Petrano also getting 4 minutes for roughing, so both of those guys got 2 minutes for roughing, as I can see here on the NHL app. But as it was called on the ice, it was 4 minutes each for roughing for Christopher Letang and Frank Petrano. John Gibson's penalty, by the way, was at 11 minutes and 36 seconds. At the 17 minute and 55 second mark, Chris Letang and Frank Petrano received 4 minutes for roughing, as they received double the amount of 2-minute minors for roughing at that time. Late in the period, the Penguins take a 2-minute minor for hooking at 18 minutes and 38 seconds. Pierre-Olivier Joseph going back to the box for hooking. And with that, that'll wrap it up. The Penguins do connect on one of their 3 opportunities on the power play, and they do succeed in killing off both of their 2 power plays given to the Ducks. So they kill off 2 of the penalties that gave the Ducks opportunities on the power play. We'll get to all of that in the game stat. our 3 stars and play of the game coming up next on Penguins postgame. This is also your reminder that we'll take a quick look around the NHL in the action on Thursday night. Following the shake of the game, right before we get to the game puck of the game. It's all coming up in one segment time. And if we don't need the intermission at this point, our 30-second timeout, hopefully we get to a 30-second timeout. We'll get to next up for the Ducks and next up for the Penguins to wrap it up. I'll also provide you with some of the comments Mike Sullivan said after the game. He was happy with the second period, not very happy with the first period. The third period, not good enough. Since I did provide you with what I understand were some of Mike Sullivan's comments of that, I will provide you actually with what the captain had to say after the game from Michelle Cricchiolo's inside scoop, more from the Penguins locker room. And this was about 10 hours ago, posted on the Penguins X page under Penguins account. But you know what? That's okay. We'll get to all of that over the course of the show. The 3 stars of the game, stats for the game, including how the game shaped up in shots, power plays, face-off, penalty kill, penalty minutes, blocks, and more, all coming up next when Penguins postgame continues, along with the 3 stars, as I mentioned, and the play of the game. It all happens when we return in a matter of moments. Stick with us. More Penguins postgame right after this.
Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners.
Looking for conversations on books and more, as well as tutorials on using your favorite devices and applications? You've come to the right place. Join us weekly on Spicy Techie, where Ali and Sienna provide insightful conversations, as well as useful tips and tricks to help you along on your technological journey. To learn more, tune into the show and like the Spicy Techie Facebook page. Search for Spicy Techie.
We're back live on Penguins postgame. Penguins and the Ducks. The Ducks beat the Penguins 5-1. Your final score from the Honda Center. We got the 3 stars coming up in just a matter of moments. But before we get down to that, let's get down to our shots on goal for this one. And it's time for the game stat. So here we go. We're going to start with the shots on goal, and before we get to our final shots on goal, we're going to tally what the shots on goal were by period. After the first 20 minutes, the Ducks and the Penguins all even at 12 shots apiece. Second period rolls around and the Penguins do win that period by 1 shot on goal. They don't necessarily outshoot the Ducks, but they win the period 11-10 in the shots on goal, are leading the Ducks 23-22 at the end of 2 periods of play, even though they are not leading it on the scoreboard. The Penguins are down by 1 goal by this time, by the end of 40 minutes. And then the Ducks beating the Penguins in the regulation time period, 12-9 in the shots totals. And they outshoot the Penguins 34-32. Not necessarily outshooting the Penguins, but you know what? It's a pretty close game. Once again, the shots on goal after the third period, 12 for the Ducks, 9 for the Penguins. The Penguins fall in the shots on goal category as a result, 34-32. The Anaheim Ducks won 26 out of 61 faceoff, winning 42.6%, just about 43% good on the faceoff dot for the Ducks. The Penguins were 57.4% good on the faceoff dot, winning 35 out of 61 faceoff. They went 1 for 3 on the power play, 2 for 2 on the penalty kill, 2 for 3 the Ducks go on the penalty kill. Their power play 0 for 2 on the night. And the Penguins spending 8 minutes in the penalty box, 10 minutes in the penalty box for the Ducks in this one. The Ducks out-hit the Penguins 20-12. They also blocked 17 of Pittsburgh's shots. Pittsburgh blocking 10 of Anaheim shots. Very close to even in the giveaways. 15 giveaways for the Ducks, 14 for the Penguins. 11 takeaways by the Ducks this one. 8 takeaways for the Penguins. So there is your game stats of the game, both by period and for the game. Time now for the 3 stars of the game. And as you know, they are sponsored by on the Penguins Radio Network, same as the play of the game. Rivers Casino, Pittsburgh's entertainment destination. That's what is the Penguins Radio Network sponsor for the play of the game. The 3 stars, meanwhile, on the Penguins Radio Network, brought to you by your neighborhood Ford stores. Ford cars, trucks, and SUVs are the official vehicles of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Not sponsored by any of those, but they could be coming down the road. And so without further ado, let's get to our 3 stars of the evening. Our 3 stars of the game in this Night Owl Club game. Here we go with our 3rd star. It's the aforementioned Alex Killorn. 2 goals, no assists, 2 points. The 2nd star is the aforementioned goaltender, John Gibson. He is looking pretty good. A goals against average of 101. Save percentage of 969. He is your 2nd star of the game. Mason McTavish, 2 goals, no assists, 2 points. Is your 1st star. And you know what? I think it's well deserved. I mean, the Anaheim Ducks were by far the better team. They scored twice in the first period. Yes, they didn't score in the 2nd period. I didn't like what their 2nd period was for the Ducks. I thought if anything they might score after the Penguins scored on the power play. but their third period was even better than the first and second period combined. Really like what I saw from McTavish, Frank Vetrano, and Alex Killorn. And you know what? In the end, the better team won, and it is a hockey game. If you don't like if you have another opinion on how the 3 stars stand out, send in an email to Sports for Beginners Podcast 8231 at gmail.com, or on Discord, go to the Penguins Postgame Show Discord server, Penguins Postgame Show Interactions, and let us know your 3 stars of the game. You can do that for the game puck of the game, shake of the game, and of course, the play of the game as well. And we'll get to the shake of the game and the game puck of the game, as well as a look around the NHL in a little bit. But before we take a break, let's get to my play of the game. And you know what? I know that a lot of people, especially everybody at Penguins postgame, would say it would be a Duck goal, but I'm going to go with the goal in the Penguins' second period by Michael Bunting. I really thought, even though that wasn't a clutch goal, I really thought at the time when it was 2-0 Anaheim, I really thought that's a very clutch goal for the Penguins to get, because if they don't get it, this game's probably going to end 5-0, and John Gibson's going to get a shutout. He's going to get a shutout. So we will see how things go next year between these two teams in 2025-2026. But for the 2025-2020 for the 2024-2025 season, the season series ends tied, with Anaheim winning on home ice last night and Pittsburgh winning on home ice back on Halloween. And count them, a couple of penalties, none in the first period, 2 to Anaheim in the second period, 3 to Pittsburgh and Anaheim. I should say 4 to Pittsburgh, 3 to Anaheim in the third period, 4 to Pittsburgh in the third period. And with that being said, my play of the game is going to go to Michael Bunting for his power play goal that got the Penguins on the board in that second period, after the Ducks gave opportunity to the Penguins on a Jackson Lecombe 2-minute minor for interference against Evgeny Malkin. All right, play of the game out of the way. We're going to take a timeout. When we return, it's time for the shake of the game puck of the game. I'll give you some of Crosby's comments, as I described earlier, from Michelle Craigiolo, the Penguins team reporter. And we'll get you set up for our 30-second timeout, which will bring us to our last segment, setting up Kraken, Penguins, and Ducks. Next 5 games. We'll get to the next 5 games in a 30-second timeout that will set up Kraken, Penguins, and Ducks Predators. All of that coming up in 30 seconds. But before we get there, let's take a final timeout and be back in a few minutes for our shake of the game and game puck of the game, plus a look around the NHL. All that coming up next when Penguins postgame continues so be sure to stick with us. Shake of the game, puck of the game, and a look around the NHL when Penguins postgame continues. Plus, Crosby's comment from last night's loss. Stick with us. Welcome back to Penguins postgame. Penguins and the Ducks. The Ducks beat Penguins 5-1. And here's just a little bit before we get into our look around the NHL and our game puck of the game, as well as our shake of the game. It is time for that segment. But before we get down to that, here's just one of the comments that Sidney Crosby had after this 5-1 loss to the Ducks on Thursday night. Crosby saying, when asked about Brian Rust after Brian Rust went down and did not return from an injury, Sid said, yeah, you don't like seeing guys go down. He plays a lot of important minutes in every situation, so hopefully he's okay. And this was following a disappointing loss to Anaheim. Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, from the NFL. As we've returned here, the Texans have fired offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick. Bobby Slowick is being fired as the Houston Texans are moving on from that offensive coordinator. Sources told NFL Network's Ian Rappert. The 2024 campaign was Slowick's second in the role with the team. There's more to come on the story, so it's a breaking news story. You know what? I'll get to that on a football program because we are still talking hockey here on Penguins postgame. And with that being said, let's take a look at the action from Thursday evening. 11 games on the slate on Thursday evening, including the New York Rangers taking down the Philadelphia Flyers 6-1. The Seattle Kraken, who the Penguins will play at 4 p.m. tomorrow on Saturday, were defeated, I should say. They weren't defeated. Sorry, they didn't defeat. They were defeated by the Washington Capitals 3-0 in a shutout fashion. And Alex Ovechkin continues to chase history and tries to break the great one, Wayne Gretzky's record. He's 20 goals away from doing so, or tying it, but he gets one against the Kraken. Should be a good one whenever Ovechkin does it. The Boston Bruins also picking up a shutout victory. They shut out the Ottawa Senators in Beantown in front of their home crowd 2-0. The Capitals shut out the Kraken 3-0. Red Wings beat the Montreal Canadiens 4-2. Hurricanes beat the Blue Jackets 7-4. The Utah Hockey Club take down the Minnesota Wild 4-0. The Calgary Flames beat the Buffalo Sabres 5-2. 6-2 the final in Edmonton on the other side of Alberta as the Oilers take down the Canucks 6-2. Predators beat the Sharks barely 6-5. And speaking of the Sharks, that's a team the Penguins will play on Monday. The Predators beat the Sharks 6-5. In the Shark Tank, 4-2, the Golden Knights beat the Blues in St. Louis. So a few shutouts to speak of, in the 11-game slate. Of course, our game is not one of those to speak of. And also a few games that have no shutouts. Our game is one of them. 1 6-5 final, 1 7-4 final, 1 5-2 final, 1 6-2 final, 1 4-0 final, 1 4-2 finals, 1 2-0 final, and 1 3-0 final, and 1 6-1 final. All right. With the look around the NHL out of the way, let's get down to the shake of the game, inspired by the Jake Gensel Milkshake Factory ad now run by Brian Rust. Whenever Brian Rust scores, you receive half off Rusty Shakes at the Milkshake Factory. Half off Rusty Shakes at the Milkshake Factory whenever Brian Rust scores a goal for the Pittsburgh Penguins. We are not sponsored by the official milkshake of the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Milkshake Factory, but it could be something down the road. With that being said, let's get to our two shake of the game recipients for the Ducks and the Penguins. Two to a side. The first one for the Penguins is going to go to Rickard Rakell. Picks up an assist, not a goal, but he picks up an assist. So you got to pick up something. And I still feel like Rickard Rakell, he didn't play well. He didn't play all that well. He did not play all that well, but I feel like he had a decent performance. But again, Mike Sullivan mentioned in his post-game media availability that I was listening to on the Penguins radio network, the first period wasn't really good enough. Second period he thought was decent or was okay. He thought we had a really good second period by the Penguins. Third period, I guess, was kind of decent, but then again, the first period was just not good enough. It was just not good enough, and I agree with it. But you know what? I'm not gonna blame the loss here on Alex Nedeljkovic. Nedeljkovic, yes, I know he's the goalie. He's supposed to be stopping shots by the opposing team in order if he wants to get something like a shutout. But he didn't. But you know what? That's okay. He still ends the night with 33 shots against and 29 saves. Gives up 4 goals, all at even strength. 879 save percentage. Only played 56 minutes and 23 seconds on the ice. Well, at least he played a full 2 periods. I don't know. It's not a back-to-back, but I don't know. Do you go to the rookie Joel Blomqvist against the Seattle Kraken? Or do you wait till the Night Owl game in San Jose? I don't know. We'll see what Mike Sullivan decides. And rather that, we'll see what the team decides. But Alex Nedeljkovic, Rickard Rakell getting the shake of the game for the Penguins. And I'm going to go ahead and give Mason McTavish and Alex Killorn, deservingly so, shake of the game for the Anaheim Ducks. So Mason McTavish and Alex Killorn picking up the shake of the game for the Anaheim Ducks. The shake of the game for the Penguins belonging to Rickard Rakell. and Alex Nedeljkovic. An honorable mention for the Penguins going to get our game puck of the game is going to go to Michael Bunting. Michael Bunting is going to get the only game puck of the game for the Penguins. With an honorable mention to Cody Glass. Not a good game by Cody Glass by any stretch of the imagination, but I do like how he was able to get at least 2 shots on goal in this hockey game. I do like that. With that being said, our honorable mention and game puck of the game recipient for the Ducks is going to go to the aforementioned John Gibson. Absolutely fantastic game played by John Gibson. He was fantastic. 31 saves on 32 shots, one of those going in the back of the net. It was on the power play from Michael Bunting. Doesn't exactly play the full 60 minutes, but just like Nedeljkovic, he does play the entire 40 minutes of play. Ends the night with a save percentage of 969. And he had a really nice game. So Bunting and John Gibson with the game puck of the game. All right. We are about just 15 minutes. We are just under 50 minutes here in our program. So we are going to take a quick 30 seconds. And when we come back after this 30-second timeout, when we come back, it's time to find out what's next for the Ducks. What's next for the Penguins? In 30 seconds, we will find out when the Penguins are playing next. When the Ducks are playing next. That's next on Penguins postgame when it concludes in 30 seconds. Stick with us.
Looking for a good hockey podcast that covers your favorite hockey teams and mine? Check out On the Ice and Behind the Benches, where we chat about our favorite hockey teams from puck drop to the last play of the action. To learn more, follow the On the Ice and Behind the Benches Facebook page. Search On the Ice and Behind the Benches.
30-second timeout, come and gone. Time now for the next 5 games for the Penguins and the next 5 games for the Ducks. Let's start with the Anaheim Ducks. Now we know for one thing, the Penguins and the Ducks will not see each other for the rest of the 2025-2024 season. Their 2 meetings are in the book and done with. So here's what the next 5 for the Penguins is. Their 3-game homestand wraps up tomorrow as the Nashville Predators take on the Ducks. The Ducks will take on the Predators at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And that ought to be an interesting one. That ought to be an interesting one for the Ducks. That ought to be an interesting one for the Ducks. The Ducks will play the Predators at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Pacific to close out their 3-game road trip. Then they are off to Seattle to battle on Tuesday night. So Seattle will see the Ducks on Tuesday night. in Seattle at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Pacific. Then they are off to Alberta as they kick off a 2-game road trip to wrap up the month of January. As they wrap up their 3-game road trip on Saturday against Nashville. Their 2-game road trip wraps up in Calgary at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Pacific. On the last Thursday of the month, January 30th, 2025. Then they'll take on the Montreal Canadiens in an afternoon game at 4 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Central, I should say. Not 4 p.m. And it is 4 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Mountain Time. Montreal will take on the Ducks on Sunday, February 2nd, 2025. Second day of February. We'll wrap up their next 5 as that is a home game this Saturday, 2 road games to end January, and 2 home games to start February. They will take on the Dallas Stars to close out the next 5. 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 p.m. Central, 7:30 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. So they've got the Predators this Saturday, the Kraken Tuesday, not Monday, Tuesday. They've got the Flames on Thursday, the Canadiens on Sunday, the 2nd of February, and on Tuesday, the 4th of February. May the 4th be with you, by the way. Oh, actually, that's for May, so that the teams won't be playing by that time. We'll be in off season by that time. Anyways, with that said, they will be playing on February the 4th in 2025 against the Dallas Stars. Meanwhile, for the Penguins, they will face off against the Seattle Kraken for the second and final time this season, starting on Saturday. So since the Penguins and the Kraken last played, the Kraken have played the King, Buffalo, and Washington as part of a 4-game homestand. That wraps up on Saturday. And we'll talk about that more on the next Seattle and Penguins recap. Moving on with the next 5 for the Penguins, they will be back in late night action against the San Jose Sharks. Puck drops at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 p.m. Central, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. Puck drop against Seattle on Saturday is at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Pacific. From Climate Pledge Arena. And with that said, after San Jose, they will take on the Utah Hockey Club on the final Wednesday of January 2025. And the final time they will face off against the Utah Hockey Club. 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Central, 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 p.m. Mountain is the Hockey Club versus the Penguins. That ought to be a good one. It's another Night Owl game, it looks like. Well, we'll see how long it lasts. That wraps up the January schedule. The next 5 wrap up with the start of the February schedule as we get closer to the 4 nations. And speaking of getting closer, a 2-game homestand will kick it off as the Penguins take on the Nashville Predators in Pittsburgh. Then then after the Predators, they will take on the Devils. But before they do, they got to take on the Predators on the 1st of February. That's the Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific. Then they'll take on the Devils same time, this time on a Tuesday night on February the 4th. So the Penguins will take on the Kraken tomorrow. They will take on the Sharks on Monday, the Hockey Club on Wednesday, and the Predators on Saturday, February the 1st, and the Devils on February the 4th. We're on our way to February. Only 3 games left on the Penguins' January schedule. And it will become 2 games left in their 7-game homestand road trip, I should say. And before they get to that point, they got to take on the Seattle Kraken. Last time the Kraken played the Penguins, the Kraken beat the Penguins 4-2. We'll just see what round 2 has to say about it as the Penguins go up against old friend and former bench boss. That's right, I said former bench boss. Dan Bilesma. We'll see what Seattle has in store when the Penguins head to Seattle tomorrow for this showdown. That is going to do it for this episode of Penguins Postgame. Thank you guys so much for joining us here today on the podcast. Anaheim fans, Penguin fans, more Penguins hockey coming your way on Sports for Beginners and on the ice and behind the benches. But for now, so long for now. And remember, let's go Pen. The Penguins fall 5-1 to the Anaheim Ducks. They split the season series with the Ducks for 2024-2025. What will 2025-2026 bring? I'm sure we will know by the end of the game when that comes around. Should it happen, we will see when we get to that season. But one season and a couple games at a time. Well, I should say 1 game at a time and 1 season at a time. The 2025-2024 season continues as we roll on in our 2025 month. 2025-2024 season continues with our Penguins post-game coverage continuing. We'll have coverage of the Kraken and the Penguins right after the game, so don't you dare miss it. But until then, let's go Kraken. And like I said in the previous Penguins and Kraken program, just to wrap it up, once again, it is now time to release the Kraken and the Penguins, Dan Bilesma versus Mike Sullivan round 2 of 2024-2025 next time on Penguins Postgame. I am Scott McGregor. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Let's go Pens, and I will catch up with you real soon. Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has just left the building.
Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has just left the building. You've just listened to Pittsburgh Penguins hockey on the Sports for Beginners podcast. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners or visit the official Sports for Beginners podcast website. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay tuned. And remember that it is not goodbye, it is until next time. And you'd have to be here to believe it.